Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
This town needs an enema.
Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat?
When Gotham is ashes, you have my permission to die. Gotham! This is your liberation.
My mother warned me about getting into cars with strange men.
This isn't a car. 20 years in Gotham. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way? He has the power to wipe out the entire human race. Tell me, do you bleed? You will.
I want you to tell all your friends about me.
What are you?
He's a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight. I'm Batman. Let the games begin.
Welcome to the Batman on Film podcast. Here are your hosts, Bill, Jett, Reineke, and Rick Shew.
Thanks for listening to Volume 2, Episode 76 of the now 19-year-old Batman on Film podcast. Well, actually, Batman on Film podcast isn't 19 years old, but Batman on Film is 19 years old this June. BOF is the sponsor, as well as a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network. Check out all the shows there at batmanpodcastnetwork.com. I am your podcast host, as well as the founder of BOF, Bill Reineke. With me today is podcast co-host Rick Shew, BOF roundtablers Justin Kowalski and Ryan Haas, and longtime BOF contributor, our special guest, Robert Reineke. Batman on Film, authoritative, definitive, the damn original. All right, boys. We made this happen because it had to happen, period. The king of the Batmen, or Batmans, I don't know how I would say that, Adam West, passed away at the age of 88 this past Friday. Mm-hmm. And it made me tremendously sad. I mean, he lived a long, great life. So you can't be sad about the life he led, but him not being around anymore is sad. And what I wanted to do is just go from each one of us and talk about what the Adam West Batman and what that show meant to us individually as a Batman fan, because, you know, depending on, I think overall, Adam West has affected just about every Batman fan in some way. It doesn't matter when they were born or whatever, but I would say that if you're of my vintage, he may mean a little bit more because, well, I'll talk about that when I go, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and, Justin, I want you to start, sir.
Oh, man. All right. Well, Adam West was my first Batman. I think all of us could say that if it wasn't for, you know, Adam West and, you know, the 60s show and everything that came along with it, we may not even be aware of who Batman is now. I mean, that show really saved the comic and everything. I mean, I don't think that's goes without saying, right? I think that's pretty much how it went down. You know, it was on the verge of cancellation and they make this show. And so without that show, we wouldn't have gotten, you know, Batman 89 is kind of what exploded like my love for Batman. But Adam West is kind of who planted the seed. You know, I saw the reruns and all that. And that's where it kind of comes from. That's where that love comes from, that I kind of fell in love with, you know. This guy running around a cape. I remember having my mom would buy me these little Mego Batman action figures, and I'd pull the heads off. And, you know,
I had those.
You know, there were these little deals. I remember pulling the heads off of them, and but that was because I love that Adam West show. You know, I remember my mom would cut out pictures of Batman, and the only pictures before before '89 was Adam West and Burt Ward, and I would glue them to paper because that was Batman to me, and at that when you're younger, when you're like of my earliest memories, when you're like 5 and 6, all you can think about is how serious and how that representation of it was, and as you grow older, it's all tongue in cheek, and so I just love this iteration of Batman. And you mentioned it in your article, Bill. Kind of what's been really great is this resurgence of the 60s show in the last few years, where people have come to turn around and appreciate it for what it was. And, because I remember in '89, it was like, that Batman's not good and he's not cool and, this and this and that. And
yeah, it was shunned. It was considered embarrassing,
Yeah. And so I'm glad that, he got to see the appreciation that people have had for him. And, even with the Batman 66 comics, some of the merchandise that's come out, he got to do that movie last year. It's been awesome and going through and looking at all that stuff. I'm a big defender of Adam West's physique. You'll get into conversations with people about, how the actors get, pumped. And I'm like, Adam West, everyone says he was paunchy. I go, I never saw that he was paunchy. I go, he went out there and he put it all on display, man. And he had, the spandex on and, he was true blue, Batman comics.
He was unapologetically Adam West.
Yeah. And, I just loved who he was as Batman. I love his Batman. And, it's, I'm sad that he, is gone, but I'm, completely blessed that he was here and he was Batman for me. So
awesome. Robert, go ahead, man.
Well, I think like many people, I knew Adam West as a child. It's an indelible part of my childhood that has passed away because every day I used to watch Batman on reruns and syndication after we got home from school, or I remember it even was on before school. It was on Sunday mornings, and apparently it was popular enough that it had resurgence of daily syndication. And it was a different period back then when I think we only had 6 channels total. So there was a group consciousness of Adam West as a Batman that I don't think exists today, even with the most popular television. We're much more niche. But everybody would, or I won't say everybody, but a sizable chunk of the population would be watching Adam West as Batman at the same time, without time shifting or that. And you might talk about it the next day or hang out with your friends or you play Batman. And, I don't know if anything's going to be like that again, but it was certainly, something. And, I think Adam West was just kind of like your old friend. Every day you come home and he would put a smile on your face. You'd thrill to his adventures and get older and laugh at him, but you still appreciated what he did. I'm certainly happy that he lived long enough to see the wheel of taste turn so that Batman, the TV show, is once again widely accepted. And he lived long enough to see that awesome box set of all his Batman adventures come out too.
Absolutely. Ryan, you're the youngest of the lot, so it's interesting perspective because you have a great love for the '60s Batman.
Yes, and it's interesting. Like, although I am the youngest of us here, I do feel lucky that Adam West actually really was my first Batman. I was first exposed to the character through the 60s show. I remember being Batman was like the first comic book character I ever knew about or loved or anything. And it's all because of that 60s show, just like a lot of people that saw it when it aired or in early reruns. I mean, I was literally 2-3 years old with a nanny and watching the 60s show on, before Freeform it used to be ABC Family, and then it was the Family Channel, and that's where I saw the show, and that's where I fell in love with Batman. And I think that whole show kind of works on Adam West's shoulders. I think we'd all agree with that. Like, he was able to do something with his approach to the character that just kind of clicked and made that whole show work. And I mean, people just were into it at the time, but through the years, there's been, a lot of shifting, like you guys have talked about, in acceptance of it, or, how it's viewed. But, the lucky thing for me is that was my first Batman, and then I was exposed to right away to the Tim Burton movies and the animated series and everything. So I've long said that time period was very instrumental in my views of the character, in terms of realizing that the character is very malleable. He can work in lots of different ways, and it kind of helped me accept different versions of the character earlier than a lot of people. So I'm really glad that the show that show and Adam West's performance has been able to, like Robert said, just reach people now, and he was able to see it turn around and see people, appreciate it for what it was. And to see him in the past 10, 15, 20 years or whatever, kind of become an ambassador, not for just that show, but for Batman in general, has been just a great thing to see. And I'm so glad that he was able to do that final Return of the Cape Crusaders film last year. And, this year we're going to get one more performance from him in the Batman vs. Two-Face animated feature. So it's just good stuff all around. He had a big life, but it still sucks to lose him. I mean, you just see all the Twitter responses yesterday have been such an outpouring of love and support for the guy. I mean, I would retweet every voice actor that's probably ever played Batman has said something. Will Arnett, Diedrich Bader, Kevin Conroy, and even had Ben Affleck and Val Kilmer, and Jason O'Mara talk about Adam West. Even things like the U.S. Department of Defense, tweeted a condolence for Adam West because he was a veteran. So it's just great seeing people embrace his version of the character and him as a person. So
yeah. All right. Very good, Ryan. Great perspective there. All right, Mr. Rick.
Well, I just want to say something actually to the group before I get started on Adam West. So if you're listening, obviously if you are, you can hear me. We were supposed to do a retrospective on Wonder Woman yesterday, a review, our verbal review, if you will, with Zaki Hassan as our guest. And unfortunately, we had breakdown in communication and we had to cancel the show. We were all very bummed about it and frustrated about it, and we were very sorry. Shortly after, we all kind of went our separate ways and said, all right, let's just reconvene next week and just put this past us. The news came over about Adam West. We had already established as a group that Sunday was not a good day for any of us this weekend, unfortunately, as well. But when that news came over, we sort of all immediately got on email together and said, if we have to, this was my personal view, and I know that you guys shared it, we have to move mountains. We're going to talk about Adam West today. Yeah. And so we're all here. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. And thanks to Robert, who I'm a big fan of. It's quite an honor to be on a podcast with you. All right. So Adam West, there's a lot of different ways that people get introduced to characters that they love. For me, the comics came second. If it was not for that TV show, I wouldn't be sitting here right now at 42 years old, wearing one of my 500 Batman t-shirts I have on right this second, and a part of this Batman on Film podcast. I wouldn't be here at all, because without Adam West, without that show, I don't know if I would have fallen in love with Batman in the way that I did. And quite frankly, who knows if Batman would even still be around. I think that Justin alluded to this earlier. That show did save the character, and then for so many years that show was loved, and then it sort of took a nosedive in the 80s when Frank Miller stuff started coming out, and obviously Batman 89. Then suddenly the Batman TV show was sort of a frame of reference of what not to do with the character, right? It's that's what people loved about Batman 89 because he was brooding. He was a vigilante. It was something different. It was not that campy TV show. And the people kind of stopped liking it. And then in my personal view, a lot of things culturally come back around, so that happens a lot, whether it's music or what have you. But I think when the Joel Schumacher's films came out, especially Batman and Robin, just how incredibly silly that movie was for its time. For me, that movie, Batman and Robin, made me fall in love with the Batman TV show again. Because I was like, if we're going to go campy, let's let it be a part of the culture it was representing at the time, which was sort of in the 1960s, what they were trying to do with the show, because the country was in turmoil with all sorts of things. We can get into Watergate, Vietnam, whatever. And that show represented something different. It was escapism. It was just fun. And then you start to appreciate it more and say, you know what? What Adam West did was actually rather brilliant. I mean, he was so good, and he was such an inspiration to me. And I would come home from school, and Robert, you talked about this as well. For me, it was 4:00, man. So I got out of school. I had to get home to watch Batman at 4:00 every day. And it was just I can't even put into words what it did to me. And somebody else referenced that whole show rested on Adam West's shoulders, and I couldn't agree more. He was the driving force of that show. There were interchangeable villains. I think Riddler changed several times. A Catwoman, obviously, but you could not have replaced Adam West. It wouldn't have worked. And so I just want to say thank you to his family, to all his millions of fans, because without him, I would be a very different person. And who knows, maybe that would be a good thing, but I don't know. I kind of like being in love with the character, and Adam West is the reason why. And I just want to read one tweet from Conan O'Brien, who I'm a big fan of. I'm just seeing it. And Ryan, you were talking about tweets. I know it might be more appropriate to read one from like a Val Kilmer or somebody, but I just
it's a good quote.
So I'll read it real fast because it's beautiful. Adam West gave probably the most inspired and ingenious performances in the history of television. He is revered by my generation of comic minds. He was also a very sweet and lovely man, and it was rare, and it was an honor to know him. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let me see if I can get through this here. I am 51 years old. I'll be 52 in October. And there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that Adam West, that Batman TV show, made me a Batman fan. And it's probably thanks to my mom, because my mom would... I don't remember. I was born in 65. The show came out. I was, 2 or 3 months old when the show premiered in early 1966. But I know she told me that, by the time I was a toddler and, we're talking about probably second, third season, that she would put me in front of it, and I watched it, like we put cartoons in for our kids, today. Pop a cartoon into the Blu-ray or DVD and let they watch that. But that was, so I did see the first run episodes, even though I don't remember it. My first conscious memory of Batman isn't the comic books. It's watching the 66 movie on a Saturday night, probably somewhere in 1968, whenever it came on ABC for the first time after its, original theater run. And I remember that scene of Batman and Robin running down the street toward the camera, which actually was shot in New York City, or the background was New York City. I think it was Lexington Boulevard, if I'm correct. If I'm not, someone will email me, I'm sure. Call me out, quote unquote. But, and I wanted to, I loved that character. And my third birthday, 1968, my mom made me a homemade Batman costume, and it was based on the Adam West costume, as close as you could get by making one at home. And that's the picture I've referenced on the site many times on my Facebook, and I had it on my article I wrote in memory of Adam West yesterday, which I am going to toot my own horn here. That was a great article I wrote yesterday. I will say that. So
Yeah, no, it was.
I was very proud of it. And there was, and so from there, then my mom bought me the comics, and then by the early 70s, late 60s, when things began to change, I discovered the Dark Batman, his more of his original incarnation, and that's my preference of the way the character is portrayed. And and by the time of Dark Knight Returns and 86, and then you had the movie Batman 89. I went through a phase of where I shunned the Adam West Batman, and that wasn't Batman, and that's not blah blah blah. And I think everything I can think that I eventually came to appreciate the Adam West Batman. And I remember, and I wrote it in the article, that early 2000s, I think 2003, the movie, there was a TV movie with Adam West and Burt Ward. It was based on probably Adam's, Mr. West's
Return to the Batcave.
Autobiography. And it was, and I remember watching that and thinking, this was my Batman. This is why I'm around my office. This is why I have all this Batman stuff here, and this is why for 19 years I've run a website dedicated to this character. And when you throw in the historical fact that show saved the character, I mean, literally, where would we be today without, as huge as Batman is? And for me,
we wouldn't have the Dark Knight, Bill. We wouldn't have
it wouldn't have any of this. None of it.
Batmania. Think about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for me, who grew up in a single parent home raised by my mother and father divorced when I was 2, Batman truly was a father figure to me.
Yeah.
The character was. I love the character, and it all goes back to Adam West and Batman. And we've mentioned it, and I wrote it in the article. I am so happy that not just me, but fandom, and not just Batman fandom, but like everyone came to appreciate that TV show, and then to see it finally get remastered and released on Blu-ray, it's beautiful, and all the merchandise that came out with it, and that you can still get, Mm-hmm. In fact, I went and ordered me an Adam West Batman T-shirt yesterday because I want another one. So just because that was on my mind, and for him to be brought to Comic-Con and be honored in that way, and to be able to soak in that, yes, my Batman is beloved, and to get that animated film, which is wonderful, and it's going to be such a gift to get Batman versus Two-Face with Adam West as Batman when it's released. That's just, it's awesome. I'm sad because he's no longer here and what he meant to me, but I'm not sad about the life he led. He lived a fantastic, we all would love to have the life that Adam West lived. So
he's a great grandfather, Bill.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, speaking of that, when we talked about the Return of the Cape Crusaders film, Justin referred to Adam West as, Grandpa Batman's going to tell us a story, and it's true, and it's sad that we've lost him.
Yes, it is.
There was, I remember amongst the stories of when like Batman 89 came out and stuff like that, he kind of lobbied for wanting to be a part of that I think there was a part that he really missed out on. And looking back, I wish they could have included him in something. I mean, he said something, and it was, I don't know if it was tongue in cheek. It probably was. And he was like, why couldn't I have been Uncle Batman or someone there, as if the Keaton movie was in the same timeline, but, I think it was a missed opportunity not to be able to have him be a part of that somehow,
it was because the mindset then was we don't want to be associated with that in any way or form. But yes, you're correct. Looking back retrospectively, I think in hindsight, most people involved with that film would probably say, you know what, we should have had Adam West in this in a cameo somewhere.
Yeah,
or even better in the Schumacher films.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Robert, I was just about to reference that. Remember the scene in Batman Forever? It's like holy rocks or holy rusted metal.
Holy rusted metal Batman.
Holy rusted metal Batman. You go, huh? Yeah, the metal, it's rusty. He's like, oh, that's kind of it's paying homage. It's also sort of a cheap shot, but it was a missed opportunity. He should have been present in some capacity and at least one of those films. Like he's nowhere, But yeah, I agree with that. That's unfortunate. But
I actually love that line in Batman Forever, "Holy Rusted Metal Batman." I always took it. I did take it as a straight up homage to the '60s show. I never personally took it as a slight to the '60s series or Adam West. So let's we'll finish up here. Let's talk about either a favorite moment from the TV show or a favorite episode. That, it's your favorite. So I'll leave it at either episode or moment from the film. Justin, any particular
if you don't mind, let me just say, and Justin, I'm sorry, man. Let's dive right into that. I just want to say one thing before we get to that. I also want to honor the man for making me laugh because I'm going to really miss Mayor West. Oh, that character is my favorite Family Guy character ever. And it's unfortunate because they use him a lot, and I don't know what Seth MacFarlane's going to do with that. I would like for them to just retire the character because he is Mayor West, and some of the funniest moments in that show revolve around him. And his comic timing is razor sharp, and that's another part of his career that's very beloved to me. And I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss that character a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway,
he's always
just
been
wanted
sharp.
To get that in there before we wrap.
Yeah,
up.
Even at as he's in his 80s, I think he still has good. His wit was still there, as some people deteriorate a little bit. His was definitely still active.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you want to listen to a really good conversation with him, look up the Nerdist podcast where they interviewed Adam West. It's fantastic.
Yeah. All right, Justin.
Yeah.
Moment.
It's probably from the third season. It was when Batman and Joker went surfing. I just thought that was hilarious. I think it surfs up, Joker's under, and it was where Joker wanted to be king of the beach, and I don't know for whatever reason that one just kind of sticks out to me as ridiculous. And Batman, he's wearing the Batman suit and he's got the swim trunks on, and they even made an action figure of it.
I have it. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, I want that one so bad.
It's the Surfs Up Batman action figure. I'm staring at it as we speak.
Oh man, I just thought it was hilarious, and
it's got the surfboard in there and everything with the Bat logo, yellow surfboard, the black Bat logo on it. So yeah. You got to get to that one, Justin.
Yeah, I know. I always see it. I still see it when I go into stores. It's just, wife's. But I love that. I love all these episodes. I was watching it last night with my son. I told my oldest son, and I was like, hey, we call him Classic Batman in the house. I said, Classic Batman passed away today. And he was like, really sad because that's the Batman he grew up on. He watched this. That's the only movie he could watch when he was younger was the 60s movie. And so we did that, and we watched the Grey Ghost episode of Batman the Animated Series, which oh man, that's a tearjerker right there.
I think he did a role in just about every animated series there has been. Yeah.
Brave and the Bold was the next
Thomas
one I
Wayne,
wanted to, but I didn't.
Brave and the Bold.
Yeah.
He was in the Batman. I'm not sure if he was.
Didn't he play the mayor on the Batman?
He was the mayor. Yeah,
He was the mayor. Yeah, on the Batman. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad. See, I'm glad the animated shows were able to bring him in at least, to honor him. I still think that the Batman animated series, the Gray Ghost one, hands down is the absolute best. And when Bruce Wayne at the end, he's all, you were my hero as a kid, and you still are. That's, dude. I'm telling you, man, that one hit because.
Yeah.
It was so honoring, and it was such a parallel kind of to his life. Was this character, and then can't get work and all that stuff, and just to give him. I'm so glad they did that because he deserved that kind of a send off. So, but yeah, those things stick out to me. I love everything he did. I mean, here's the thing about Adam West. Sorry, kind of going back to the original question. I would watch anything that he was in growing up because I was such a fan. There was a TV show, I believe, that Conan O'Brien kind of started to produce for him because Conan O'Brien had a good relationship with him. And I watched that. And I don't remember what it was, but he was like a private eye or something like that. And
Look Well, right?
I think that's what it was. And I would want to watch anything that Adam West was a part of because that's how much he meant to me. He's Grandpa Batman. And look at his Twitter, like just his Twitter. It's fun and
so good.
Just him cooking and things like that. That stuff always made me smile. And he was just a great man. So, oh man,
I got you. All right, Robert.
Man, favorite moments. I mean, it's hard to pick out one moment because
I know it's hard
because he loved being the gosh darn Batman. I would say when you define it, I think that's his defining characteristic.
That's the best right there.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, you could see his voice would rise and he'd get excited when he get a riddle or a challenge. He was kind of Don Quixote in a cynical age where everybody shared in the delusion. I would think maybe that what sticks into my mind right now is I think one episode they escaped from a Mr. Freeze trap and Batman asks Robin in all sincerity if you ever wondered how they keep us defeating these villains and escaping these traps, and Robin replies, because we're smarter than them, and Batman says, so I like to think it's because we're good and better than they are. I think that's kind of he was able to make Batman. I mean, it was kind of a joke, but there was a sincerity to his portrayal of Batman that I think resonated. And he was silly and not unrealistic, but you kind of admired him all the same, and you kind of wanted to be Batman. And I think that's the legacy, and he carried that well into his private life and car shows and whatever. He always had some dignity as Batman, even if it was a silly in retrospect. I mean,
that's a great. I think I'm going to take that as my favorite quote of this episode so far. That he always had dignity as Batman. I love that.
All right, Brian.
Man, I mean, there's so many.
I know it's a tough question to say your favorite moment or favorite show, but
there's a few things I want to bring up here, but when I just think about Adam West and his like comedic timing and the way he could this is only something that Adam West could do. I remember the moment in the 1966 Batman movie when Bruce Wayne and Miss Kitka are on a date and they're just kind of, and they have their eyes closed and they're talking to each other, and Miss Kitka says, when I close my eyes, I imagine a world at peace. And Bruce Wayne, Adam West says, that's strange. When I close my eyes, I imagine something quite astonishingly different. And it's just like, as a kid, you watch that, you're just like, yeah, of course. Yeah, it makes sense. But as an adult, it's like, this is just hilarious. And I think of other really funny things he's done in the recent years, the tongue-in-cheek kind of things. I think he did something with Funny or Die or something where he was like Adam West was holding a yard sale outside of the Batcave, and all he wanted to do was get enough money to go eat a Arby's beef and cheddar. And then it ends with him at Arby's eating a beef and cheddar like it's the best thing he's ever eaten. And it's just absolutely hilarious. But going back to some of the Twitter things that have been brought up, there was somebody that posted a little op-ed that he wrote in this magazine. And I want to read just a little section of it because it's really, really profound. I mean, it's a little specific. It's from a video game and computer magazine, but and I won't read the whole thing. But the thing that he said was, he started talking about Batman and ties it into video games. He says, "Take the character of Batman. Our show still draws heavy ratings whenever it's shown. I'm pleased that today's relatively sophisticated audiences enjoy the unique meld of action and humor we had in every episode. Yet, I'd like to see a video game which features Batman as he was conceived back in 1939, a shadowy creature of the night. Once again, I personally would rather play that part than play the game, but for all the people who don't have that option, video games are a great way to experience the thrill and challenge of being such an extraordinary figure. Needless to say, an adventure character should just be one facet of video gaming. In the same way a painting allows us to gaze upon the faces and souls of people from another age, or a book permits us to linger on the thoughts of great figures from history and fiction, video games can expand our awareness of the world as it is, was, or might be. The medium is still in its infancy, but read this again in a few years and see if this prediction hasn't come true. As video gaming grows, we will grow." And that was written in July of 1983, which is
really?
It's just crazy for him to say something that profound then, and what he said absolutely has come true. You know, video games are more sophisticated than ever, and you know we've had things like the Arkham games, so that's really fascinating. And another thing I want to bring up is one of his tweets got dug up from a few years ago, and it just said, this was back from 2013, and he said, "There's no way to control time, but we can control what we do with our time. Use it well, appreciate the good things along the way." And I just thought that was really, really nice.
That is really. I actually had that pulled up to read myself. That's a great tweet.
Rick, what you got?
Well, I had that, but Ryan taking it is. I have no problem with Ryan taking that one. So I'm gonna readjust here a little bit. Well, one of my favorite moments. Well, first of all, I have to say that the coolest always is him sliding down the pole and coming out on the other side fully decked out in Batman.
Oh, I believe that could happen when I was a kid.
Sure, me too.
I really did. I believed it 100%.
And there's a scene in the film where the purity of his character is so like encapsulated in this moment where he won't even kill ducks to get rid of a bomb. And he just says, "Some days you just can't get
quintessential scene."
Yes,
it's a great Adam West Batman scene, and any scene with he and Julie Newmar. She will always be the sexiest Catwoman ever, and he was the most handsome Bruce Wayne ever. And so, like any scene with those two, his debonair, and I mean, I can't even pinpoint one specifically because they all just sort of tie in together. Just, I love their chemistry, and they were sexy, they were cool, and those are always my favorite episodes.
That closing credits to Return of the Caped Crusaders when they're dancing, the animated versions of them are dancing is brilliant. It's just brilliant. Well, all right. So, what can I say about Adam West? Well, what I have already said. Let me read Val Kilmer's tweet. "Ah, dear Adam West. He was always so kind when we met. A real gent. Once when I was a kid, we found ourselves in front of the Batmobile. I got in." Ben Affleck, the current Batman. "Adam West exemplified heroism. Kind, funny, and an all-around great guy. Thank you for showing us all how it's done." Indeed. Yeah. Speaking of Ben Affleck, not too long ago, Adam West did an episode of The Big Bang Theory where the guys picked Adam West up and then they were talking about who was the best Batman back and forth, and one of them brought up Batfleck, and he just has this look on his face and he says, what's a Batfleck? And it was hilarious. If you haven't seen that, find it on YouTube. It's hilarious. My favorite episode is probably the first two. We put them together. High Diddle, Riddle, and Smack in the Middle. And my favorite scene still is him going in the Go-Go Club. It's like it's, and they're like, "Can I take your cape, Mr. Batman?" And he goes to the bar and orders a fresh glass of fresh squeezed orange juice, and of course he does the Batusi, which is classic as well.
I like how you referenced that yesterday.
Yes. Oh, you got that, huh?
Yeah, I got that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, I just appreciate everything that Adam West has done for me personally. And, the guy doesn't even know me, and I don't know him personally, but the impact that he's had on my life has been just tremendous. And I'm thankful that I'm my age, and I was one of the last, probably at the tail end of, I'm in that generation where I got to see Batman first run, even though I don't remember it, but I certainly saw the first wave of syndication rerun. So, and coming in, late 60s, early 70s, and I think we all talked about going home and watching it after school, and I just took that stuff so dead serious. Rick brought up the bat pole, and I said, and I mean this, I truly believed that. I remember thinking as a kid, this is going to sound completely ridiculous, but I thought, I could go to a fire station and slide down that pole. Could you come out, in a Batman costume? Or I remember we had this is before we had cable or satellite. We had an antenna, in the sky that wasn't attached to the house or a roof. It was next to the house, and it was on a pole, and I got caught climbing up on the roof and trying to slide down that pole in that Batman costume that I had made for me when I was 3 years old. So, Thank you, Adam West.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be happy. I'm happy right now for all the happiness that you brought me and everyone here and Batman fandom around the world.
Yeah.
So,
and if you want a good laugh and you have never seen his rant about his body versus the rubber suits that the other actors have to wear on The Simpsons, do yourself a favor. And
oh, yeah.
Pure West.
Just YouTube that. It's Pure West.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another appearance he had on The Simpsons.
Mm-hmm.
So, before we do some quick plugs, let's take a moment of silence for the king of the Batman, of the Batmen, the Batmans, Mr. Adam West. Thank you. All right, Robert, anything you would like to plug, sir?
Well, I will have something coming up for Batman on Film sometime later this year. I'm in the midst of doing research. I'm not going to unveil what it is right now.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be something unique.
It's really awesome. I'll leave it at that.
I know it's awesome, yeah.
Yes, Ryan knows it's awesome too. Yes, but it's going to be really good, and it's going to be unique, something that hasn't been done before.
Yes, but in the meantime, if you want to follow me, you can follow me at our Still Watching the Skies monthly podcast with some bonus episodes where you have roundtables about what we think are the lesser discussed science fiction films of the past. Some of our recent episodes include The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension, THX 1138, the New Zealand film The Quiet Earth from the 1980s, and It Came from Outer Space, among others. You can find it at wherethελongtailends.com or at the Where the Long Tail Ends feed at iTunes or your podcatcher of choice.
Very good. Justin.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at J_Rocca. And this weekend, well, this is the weekend. This is the end of the weekend. Tonight and tomorrow we'll be releasing a 2-part on the Let's Go podcast with the wives talking about Wonder Woman. So I'm hoping that turns out interesting.
Very cool. All right. Ryan.
Follow me on Twitter at SMB_Ryan. Follow the other podcast I'm a part of, the Robin, Everyone Loves the Drake, Tim Drake, Robin podcast on Twitter at ELTD podcast and on the BatmanPodcastNetwork.com website. I've also, a few people have been asking me about my Dennis O'Neil interview, and it's still ongoing. I'm still editing that thing. It's, like I said, it's a 2.5 hour interview. So I am doing the edits on it, making it good, making it sound good and flow good and smooth and figure out how we're going to set it up in an episode form, but it's still coming.
Cool. All right. Very cool. Ricky Joe.
Oh, you had to make that public. So if you're following the Left Shoe politics, please continue to support us. We have a lot of exciting things coming up. We're going to start isolating some podcasts and doing some local things in terms of, like, Jeremy's in Los Angeles. I'm in Dallas. I'm going to be interviewing Philip Kingston soon. He's Dallas City Councilman. And so we're gonna sort of hone in on some things that are local, because politics is all local, right? And we need to be a little bit more aware of what's going on in our own backyards as citizens. And I'm not being preachy. That's something for me, because I get too interested in the national stuff and not really what the heck is going on in my backyard, which is really, at the end of the day, more important. So there is that. Follow me on Twitter at ShewRick, ShewRick. And I just want to give a shout out to our UK correspondent, Tom. Is it
McClellan?
How do you say it, Justin? McClellan? Is it McClellan? I've never heard him say it.
And you have to say it like in British, like Tom McClellan. And
yes, I have to both to Tom McClellan. Anyway, he's a great guy. He's our UK correspondent, right? Anyway, happy birthday, buddy.
A pint to him.
Yes.
A pint to him.
A pint to him, right.
All right. So, announcer Rachel will provide the end credits as always. And if you want to follow me and all that stuff, she will let you know how to do that. But Adam West is going to take us out. We'll catch you next time.
Language is the key to world peace. If we all spoke each other's tongues, perhaps the scourge of war would be ended forever.
Yes, it helps give us a sense of proportion. Reminds us how little we are, really. People tend to forget that sometimes.
When dealing with powerful criminal elements, one can never be too well prepared. Human mechanisms are made by human hands, Robin. None of them is infallible. It's a lesson which must be faced.
You have learned your lesson. Crime never pays. Not luck, Robin. We were prepared, but it is true. Some days, one is luckier than others. This money goes toward building better roads. We all must do our part. Good citizenship, you know. Yes, Robin. An opportunity well taken is always a weapon of advantage. Exercise never hurt anyone, Robin.
Experience teaches slowly, Robin. And at a cost of many mistakes.
It's unwise to condemn what we don't understand.
Unfounded suspicions are often dangerous, old man.
Violence begets violence. My training in legal matters has taught me that every document has some fine print that is usually overlooked. In good bat climbing, as in good driving, one must never sacrifice safety for speed. You'll find that people are basically good, Robin. They're merely reacting to their surroundings. But most politicians are honest servants of the people. The dishonest ones are the exception. Elections are not won by polls, Commissioner. They're won by votes, at least in this country. Smart politicians trust the voters, not the polls. After all, if you can't trust the voters, whom can you trust?
A brother's sufferings claim a brother's pity, gentlemen. Truisms. No man is really all bad.
Without danger, the game grows cold. Little is gained without risk. Great care must be taken in the use of firearms. They can be quite dangerous if used improperly. Even with the best intentions, it's hard to change a lifetime of habit.
Every man has his own unknown inner strength at a time of crisis, Robin. I'm sure had the situations been reversed, you would have found your strength.
Better 3 hours too soon than a minute late. Let's not put off till tomorrow what we can do today, Robin.
The size of the package, Alfred, is in no way any indication of the value of its contents.
To err is human, to forgive divine.
Otherwise, you might have realized that good, even though it's sometimes sidetracked, always triumphs over evil.
Being a hero
or a crime fighter is not what counts the most, Andy. It's growing up to be a good citizen. And if that's what you meant, it's the highest possible compliment you could pay me.
Of what use is a dream, if not a blueprint for courageous action?
No man is above the law, and no man is below it.
You've been listening to the Batman on Film podcast, a proud member and the sponsor of the Batman Podcast Network, BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. You can listen to the BOF podcast on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, TuneIn, and wherever good podcasts like this one can be found. Want to advertise on the BOF podcast? Go to advertisecast.com/the Batman on Film Con podcast. Follow Jett on Twitter at Batman on Film and on BOF's Facebook fan page at facebook.com/Jett.BatmanOnFilm. Email Jett via Jett@batman-on-film.com. Follow Rick on Twitter at ShewRick and on Facebook at facebook.com/BOF-Shew. For Jett, Rick, Justin, and Ryan, I'm announcer Rachel. Thanks for listening.